Hi, welcome to the How She Made It Summit, where we are talking about what it takes to be a wealthy woman. I am your host, Tiffany Scott. I am the founder of She Collective and Sister Suppers. Check them out. And today we have the beautiful Priscilla Stephan. Priscilla is the founder of Lead from Your Soul. She is an intuitive business strategist who helps entrepreneurs step into their next level of leadership. Priscilla, welcome. It's so good to see you. And I really just love the conversation we had before we jumped on here. So I'm sure we're going to move into points of what we talked about because they were so heartfelt and so real. But before we do that, can you just share a little bit about you, your wisdom, your gifts, and also your journey to where you were and what made you start this business and really helping entrepreneurs step into beautiful soul-led leadership?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tiffany. Hi, everyone. Hi from San Diego. My lighting is a bit funny here today. So I work with women entrepreneurs. Here's the thing. I believe that every human on the planet has gifts that when shared with the world will change the planet. So that's what drives me. And so I love helping women really understand their gifts and how to express that through a business that allows them to live their purpose in a way that aligns with their soul. And I started out my business 7 years ago as a health coach. Wasn't a plan. I had a tough relationship with food, figured I will just, go to nutrition school for me, heal my relationship to food. Started out as a health coach, which meant I really help people with their lives and their careers. But I always knew there was something missing, right? The soul never lies. Like the body never lies and the soul is always talking to you if we're listening, that intuition, that awareness, that nudge, that feeling. And so I knew there was something missing. And then when I came upon the Akashic Records, which is the modality that I use, right, to really help tap into the soul of people and their businesses and really create that soul-aligned business and marketing strategy, I was like, this is it. It changed my world. I tapped into a dimension and an energy that I'd never experienced before, which was great for someone as skeptical and non-trusting as me. I wanted to trust, but I never felt something quite like that. So I rebranded my business to do what I do now. So I've worked primarily with coaches, healers, intuitives, now more conscious entrepreneurs to help them really create a business that expresses their purpose and that allows them to operate in that zone of genius, which is theirs. And it tends to be mystics, healers, visionaries. And along the path in the Akashic Records, since I use it for myself, also in business, I was given a body of work called the Leading from Your Soul Archetypes. I call them soul leadership archetypes that helps you understand how you naturally just lead as a soul, your leadership style, and everyone's free gift will be to take the free assessment to uncover your archetype and how that translates into how you operate in business and in life. But it's been a journey, 7 years. I can't believe it. And I feel like I'm 70, because it's been what the fuck, so yeah, that's the short of it.
Thank you. Yeah, we were talking, and we'll talk about it a little bit more because I have another question, but we were talking about the roller coaster ride of what it is to be an entrepreneur and the breaking down that seems to be happening right now, the energy and flow of the breaking down to like allowing that breakdown. But I want to just backtrack a little bit before I circle back to that is, for those that don't know what Akashic Records are, can you share a little bit about that? Because you were very generous with me and read my Akashic Records and, or Akashic, I'm saying it in my
Can be both
accent, which was really insightful. These you talked about, you got this download of tapping into your archetypes for leadership, and it was so insightful for me. And I loved when we had a follow-up conversation about it. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't really know if I'm really into archetypes. I know a lot of people speak about them all the time, but I don't always relate. And I feel like it's just a way of trying to find yourself. But you were really great at like making me see it in a different way of how it can really support me. So this is a two-pronged question. What is Akashic Records? And then how can the archetypes, the downloads of the archetypes that you got from your guides, from your spirit guides, really help people connect with a new way of, or a better way of leading?
Great questions. Some of my favorite questions. So the Akashic records are an energy space in the ether. Akasha means ether in Sanskrit, where you can connect to your soul guides. They're called the record keepers. And so the Akashic records are also known as your book of life. Everything that your soul has experienced through every lifetime is contained in this ethereal library of your soul. That every thought, feeling, action, relationship, everything you've ever created, thought of, imagined is contained in this incredible archive. And so usually through a prayer, and anyone can learn to access the Akashic records. I'm not special in that way. Then you, through a prayer, you access the energy, bless you access the energy of the records. And in so doing, you connect with your soul guides who are there to give you clarity and support on how to live your best life and to live your purpose. It's not psychic, it's not predictive. It is here to empower you to trust what you know, to live your best life based on free will and choice. But also to give you very clear guidance so that you can, kind of those nudges, the push. It's a space of truth and love. So it's always going to empower you to your highest good, and it will give you a kick in the pants if need be, And so my gift is particularly you can use the records to help people with any area of their lives. My gift is business. I have a particular knack to download very powerful. Because you can open the records of anything that has consciousness, of an event, of a summit like this, of a person, of a relationship, of an event, of a book, of whatever, of a country. Anything that has energy has a record, right? So it's not just specific, but you can also open up the records of a business. And so I have a particular knack to go in and connect to the records of a person and of their business and their marketing plan and what the soul roadmap is for them, so they're deeply in alignment with their purpose and what they're here to create, but very specifically, right? It's not like, oh, go meditate. It's like, here's the pricing, here's this. It's very, specific in that way. Make sense, first of all, with that? Yes. And so anyone can learn to read their own records or have someone like me read for them. In terms of the soul leadership archetypes, I was guided to start channeling a book, which is now over 160 pages long and is a body of work that involves 28 individual leadership archetypes. So the point is, you are a leader. If you get nothing else from this conversation today, you are a leader, because in this body of work, leadership is defined as contribution. We all contribute, don't you? As a friend, a mother, a sister, a wife, a human, helping a blind person cross over the street, that's leadership. Writing a book, a president, a janitor, someone flipping burgers, I don't care what you are, a mother, a teacher, we're all leaders. The question is, are you willing to embrace that embrace the contribution you have to give, let's use that word, and then to acknowledge that your contribution has value and that you are specifically designed perfectly the way you are. I call it your soul DNA, your soul operating system, to create the level of contribution and the breadth of contribution that you are here to create. And that can take many forms over your lifetime, but there are specific gifts that you innately have that will allow you to share your contribution. And I think that once we awaken and embrace these gifts, and we know it in our bones, know it in our soul, then we are open to more choice, to what we're going to contribute, where we're going, how we're going to share our gifts in the world, and how do we align the work we do with those gifts so it creates more ease, right? It creates more flow. Because sometimes what happens is like, I should do this, but I really hate doing it. Well, what if you could do something you love using the gifts that you have and make money from it? What if you could have all of it versus compartmentalizing you? That's what I love about this work. You bring all of you to the table knowing that, yes, that's got value, versus compartmentalizing. So the parts of us that say, I'm too loud, I'm too difficult, I'm too bossy, I'm too obnoxious, I'm too sweet, I'm too quiet, I'm too introverted. Well, what if you're perfectly designed just that way for how people will receive your contribution? And so that's what I think is very empowering. You have something of value. And then you get to choose how you channel that for the greater good and starting for your life, So I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's a very cool thing. And so I want to talk about, I remember when you shared my Akashic records and my different archetypes, one of them was Queen, and one of them, I think one of the other ones was Maverick as well. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Can I really dive into that? And what does that mean for me? And it was so comprehensive what you shared with me that I still go back and reflect on it at times. But as we speak about, connecting with the different kind of, like you shared, like the different kind of, the good and the bad, the dark and the light, like the shadow and all those different things. I'm too introvert, I'm too extrovert, whatever it is. It's really what I sense from what you share is like you have these different archetypes around you that can tap into and help elevate you on those points that you want to feel supported in as well, which is really beautiful. So when we're talking about wealth, how do you use your guides, your different archetypes to tap into wealth consciousness?
Yeah, great question. And one more thing to answer your other question about the archetypes. It's really because I had a hard time with what are archetypes and what does this mean, and it feels like something outside of me. It's actually something that's already within us, as you said, and so it's really an accessing of an energy that we already possess, and then consciously, deliberately, and through a sense of exploration. For example, I'm a priestess archetype. What that means is that the way that I'm here to change the world by elevating consciousness through intuitive, creative, and healing abilities. And so for me in business, that means that the more I lead in my branding, in my messaging, in my marketing, and in my energy of I am this portal between the invisible and visible worlds. And the more that I own that and share that, the more that I'll help other people, because that's what the priestess does. She's a truth teller, right? She's a sorceress. She's a magician. And so just acknowledging that about me, just acknowledging that this is already here. I don't have to chase it. It's not outside of myself. Ooh, like, it just means that I just feel more strong and embodied and empowered. You know what I mean? And then, so it just helps for me to just access that energy, know that this is the path, this is the energy, this is the way. I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to try to be someone I'm not. I just have to allow more of me to actually just blossom out, like a flower. So it's coming from the inside out. And that's what the whole soul thing is. It's already within you. It's not something outside of you, or that you get to model or try to be what you think a leader should be in order to succeed. I think more and more we're being called just to be me, be you, right? Be you, whatever that is. And I think part of that leadership journey, and including for what we're talking about before, like, is breaking down all those places where we thought we had to be that way versus our way.
Yeah.
And it just creates deeper alignment. It creates so much more space, right? Because we're not trying to be something we're not. And to own that how we are is just magnificent. And so speaking to wealth, I've seen with the archetypes too, and that's why I'm so passionate about people really owning their gifts, is that when you truly understand that the gifts that you have, however you choose to share them in a way that feels authentic and true for you, where you don't feel like you're betraying yourself, really will create wealth. Wealth in terms of the fulfillment, the meaning, the richness, the sense of purpose that you have. It can certainly reflect monetarily as well. But I think what happens, everything is energy, right? Energy is everything. And so the more that you are in alignment with your truth, whatever that looks like in terms of where you live, who you're in relationship with, the work you do, your energy field, the more there is space for you to be magnetic, for you to be open to opportunities, for synchronicity, for possibility to show up in your life. And so, and that is all wealth, because I've actually been contemplating recently, what does success really look like for me? There's the ego part of me. I want to do a TEDx talk. I want to be a best-selling author. I want to have all of those things. Yay. But right now, as you and I were talking about, I'm getting married in a few months. I want to actually have a more introspective time right now. That's success to me. And so I think, and I just saw a video for Tony Robbins where he was saying wealth is appreciation, it's gratitude, it's presence, it's being here in this moment. And I get that we all need money, to go and do stuff. I'm not saying that. However, I also think that important to acknowledge that wealth it's an energy, it's a way of being, right? And in the soul leadership work in the book, it talks about how we're naturally abundant, right, as souls. That is our default. And that joy is the greatest expression of leadership. And so more and more, I think part of the reason that we're experiencing our breakdowns is that we are being called to align more deeply with our joy, because joy is a high vibration, expansive energy that is an energy of creation and connection and collaboration and possibility. And so I think once we do business from a place of, oh, this makes me happy, versus, oh my God, I got to do this and this funnel and this blah. Like, no, there's no joy there, right? We think we should do it, but the should is a heavy. There's an implied lie or conclusion that that's the way. And I think the greatest edge for many of us is giving ourselves permission to choose joy and to make that the essence and the cornerstone of how we choose what we choose in our lives and in our businesses.
Oh my gosh, you just said that all so beautifully, articulated that so well. Thank you. And as you were talking, I was reminiscing on our conversation before this, because we were talking about one thing I want to say is the archetypal work that you did with me helped me, and you were talking about this before, I just want to reiterate it, is it helped me step into the strength of those different, just elevated everything a whole lot more, which I really, really appreciated. So I recommend that if you want to connect with Priscilla on your Akashic Records, to connect with the archetypes that she got downloaded from her guides, and I highly, highly recommend that. Number one. Yeah. Number two is we were talking about the breaking down, right? You and I, before we got on the call, we're talking about there's this energy that we're collectively feeling, that we're feeling ourselves, and then seeing in other women are always in my sphere, where there's like this breakdown. And I was referring to my time in Guatemala, where I was like in this space of like questioning everything, resisting everything, feeling like everything was falling apart, where I came up with really got the download of like, okay, bring women together for a summit, a series, and interview them on what it means to really create wealth, right? Because wealth is money and it is joy, and fundamentally it's joy. It's being in your bliss, it's being in the happiness. As corny as that sounds, it truly is. And yes, money helps with that, and health helps with that, and all those sorts of things. Not discounting that at all. But I really want to talk about this breakdown that I feel like there's a collective happening, particularly with entrepreneurial women, or even women that are in their careers and questioning like what it is. And it may be a trigger point, or maybe the money isn't coming in anymore. You were saying that you had your best quarter ever last year, but you got burnt out basically, which I have done so many times. And then all of a sudden you've got no energy. So for me, the realization was when I was in Guatemala, and even just most recently, where I was like questioning everything. It was just like everything felt like it was crumbling down for a while. But the beauty in it was that I got to see things totally differently. I got to like take the judgment off everything, because I was so at what felt like on my knees at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, of like the money wasn't flowing as easily. I was having challenges with my husband. I'd moved to a new city, which I was loving, but it was also, there's also a part of like, this feels really alien to me right now. Like all these sorts of things were in flux, where I just sat back and went, okay, I literally surrender right now. This feels uncomfortable. I don't like it. I cried at times. And then but then we're still putting on the brave face, right? Like still kind of churning and burning and doing all the things. And you and I were talking about this. And then I read your email about how you were going through a similar thing. And then I read another sister's Facebook post, how she was going through a similar thing. And then I was like, this is what true vulnerability and authenticity looks like. When you can show up even when things don't look like they should be, and really share your truth from a place of, not just from a place of power and not victim, but also from a place of like, if I'm going through this, there's going to be other people going through this as well. And I think with the archetypal work that you do, it helps you connect to that space of like, oh, I am a little bit of queen, and I am a bit of a maverick, and I am a bit of a disruptor, or whatever it is, and just be and give yourself permission to be okay with that. And so with, with where you're moving now, like going into the, you're planning for the wedding and all those sorts of beautiful things. What has been some of the biggest lessons for you with the disruption that's taken place in your, and it doesn't have to be like, recently, but the disruptions, even changing your business, like the disruptions that have taken place that have really helped you connect with your truth to create more wealth in your life, to create more joy, to create more money?
Yeah. And I think even this is a fabulous question. It all comes down to listening to yourself, your soul. You can say soul and truth. I mean, my tagline is lead from your soul. The soul has everything within us to guide us and support us. And we hear that through intuition, through nudges, through synchronicities, through possibilities, through a book falling off a shelf. Like the soul is always there to guide us, right? We just need to listen. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is to stop and be still, whether it be meditation, yoga. I like to walk the dog, like any moments where there's no something at you versus just you being with you. That's when you can create the space to hear. And so let me see, what was the question again in terms of wealth and how do you navigate oh yes, I remember. Yeah. Yes. I think that everything is evolving, right? We're all evolving and realigning, and we are being invited into realignment. And we know, I think from experience, that when we're out of alignment and we don't do anything about it, the 2x4 will hit you over the head to make sure that you eventually, so let's make sure that, hey, pay attention. Even if you don't know what then is next, you can ask, well, soul, universe, show me the next step, right? Yeah. And I think for me, I needed some guidance too, because I was like, I just don't understand. I know there's something going on because this doesn't make sense. And there was just like this, the dam just burst with beauty. And now all of a sudden, everything just like there's a stopper and like not even a drop is coming out. What the hell? And so the guidance that I received was that, like I told you, the stop had to happen to identify and reevaluate, because there are opportunities now for growth, for deeper reflection, a new way of being, which is leadership, and also a new way of showing up that will support me, and also to question everything, because it's easy for us to go, well, I can do this, and there's like the 3-year timeline and the 5-year whatever. And is it still what you want to do? Yeah. How do you want to do it? And so I think it is a gift, to look at it if you choose. Like I always ask, what is the gift in this that I'm not yet receiving? What is the gift in this? And of course, the amount of pain that we experience is also a choice, right? How much we choose to be in the resistance and the drama and the perception of what is wrong and judging ourselves versus what is right about this that I'm not getting? What is perfect about this that I'm not getting? It has been challenging. And so I think it's just an opportunity to realign, to choose more deeply for ourselves, whatever that is, and to question. Because I think what can happen is that, like the bubble of entrepreneurship that we were talking about, we can get really, like our world can get really small, right? We can think of all the potential, but then our world gets small. How do I make this income goal? How do I connect with this influencer? Do I go to this event? Do I not go to this event? Do I go have dinner with my friend? And it can be very insular, I find. And so, and as you and I were talking before, there is a whole world of people that don't know a coach, that have never don't know anything about our world. And it's so refreshing. And so it's just an opportunity to expand, realign, and choose more deeply and authentically for ourselves, because we do change. We're constantly changing. And how is this change happening for us versus to us? And look, it sucks, because we don't know what's happening fully. The unknown is scary. The ego can go bananas, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I don't have the answers. Even as an Akashic record reader who, I can tap into my records all day long. It doesn't mean that, I still have choice. We still have lessons to learn, right? And sometimes we learn them in a way that sometimes we have to learn them in a way that's going to stop us in our tracks, and pay attention. And so, and I think one of the greatest gifts that my first business coach taught me, she said, Priscilla, there is a cycle of quitting in entrepreneurship. Every 60 to 90 days, you're going to probably want to quit. And then she described, you get depressed, you feel bad about yourself, you stop marketing, money stops flowing, I must not be good at this. Okay, I'm going to quit. And then, oh, this has been great. And then, oh, you go again. So I just expect it. And yeah, it's a journey. And I think it's also a journey not to beat ourselves up, when we see these people that just seem to keep growing and growing and growing. And it's like, well, what's wrong with me? How do, and so there's a lot of beating ourselves up that really doesn't help. And I think that's part of the journey too. I don't have all the answers for that, but I think just staying in our own lane as much as we can and acknowledging that we have so much magic, especially for the mystic archetype, which are the healers. Sometimes we forget, one of our pieces of magic is that we get to change energy and create transformation just by being present, right? We don't actually need to say or do, this, right? You can enter a room, you can just listen and somebody's like, oh my God, thank you. I just had this aha. Meanwhile, you're like, I didn't do anything. But that's one of the powers of the mystic, is that we could just, our energy transmutes, creates, catalyzes. And so sometimes just remembering, my energy is a gift. My energy changes things. I don't have to do something. I don't have to, have it all figured out. Well, who I am has value, regardless of what I do or what I choose, and certainly how much money I make. And I think that's something that I have to remind myself often,
Yeah, I think the comparison is something that's really stifling, particularly for a lot of women. The comparison of like, well, she's got it all going on. Why don't I do? Or she was, successful overnight. Why can't I have that? When we really don't know what's going on in the background and what she's moving through or what her journey was and all those sorts of things. So I agree with you. Just stay in your lane. Stay focused on the best way that you want to show up. And remember that life happens for you, not to you. Even when, like I was a couple of months ago on my knees going, what is going on? This feels horrible. But then I had to surrender and say, okay, I trust the universe. I trust that there's lessons in this. And there was so many. I had to take away judgment of myself, judgment of others, judgment of the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things. Like all of it was broken down, that I have such a new perspective on, what does wealth creation mean from a financial standpoint? You can create wealth in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be through creating necessarily a business. Being an entrepreneur isn't for everyone, and that's okay. And I used to have judgments around that. Like, if you're working for corporate America, you're working for the man and there's no way out. Well, if you want stability, and well, that's definable as well. But, it's not for everyone, and that's totally okay. And so I love that you're talking about it's the space, it's the stopping, it's the stillness that allows us the time to be able to reflect. Two more questions. How did you get connected with your guides? Like when you talk about channeling your book, right? Can you explain how that came to you? Because I know that it's something I'm always curious about, that's happened to me in instances over the last couple of years, but I want to tap into it even deeper. And I'm sure there's listeners here that want to as well. Because I do know that I believe and know in my own way that there is a higher power, that we are guided. Like I see different kind of signs all the time where at the most challenging time, I'll be like, oh, thank you. Just that reminder, right? But you downloaded a whole archetypal leadership soul program and a book. So how did that come to you?
Well, I think that we're all channels. As much as my ego wants to tell you that I'm all special because I can get to do it and you didn't, I'm just playing with my ego these days and just going, oh, so cute, not bright. There's nothing that I am doing that anyone else doesn't have the ability, right? We can channel through prayer, through journaling, right? Through in the shower, those moments. It comes in all different ways. How the book comes to me, usually when I have to write all this stuff down, I go into the records, I say the sacred prayer that we're taught to say, and then I access the energy of the records, and then I actually open the records of the book and I say, okay, start talking. And so then I hear it and then I just start typing, and then I type until I get tired, which is usually about an hour or so. And then I stop and then I come back to it. I haven't worked on the book for months now. I just needed to step away. And so that's what happens. When I channel anything, I just open up the records of my newsletter list when I do that or whatever. And then I just type. And then when I'm done, they're like, we're done. And then I share it however it wants to be shared, right? And so when I did a talk on soul leadership, I said, okay, give me the talk. I don't know what to do. So then I had to finesse it. But so what we can also do is use questions. Access consciousness, which is a great modality, says, ask empowering questions. So everything has a consciousness, right? And so everything has an energy. You can ask the energy of your business. How would you like to be expressed? What business model would you like? Would work best for you? Business, how much money would you like to make? Do you want to slow down or do you want to ramp up right now? You can ask the energy of money. Money, how would you like to support me right now? And so we can just, using the energy of the cosmos, of the collective, right? The universal, the invisible and the visible energies, I guess, and just ask questions that will connect you to your awareness, right? We all have awareness and intuition. Now, the thing is that when you ask the question, you may not hear the answer immediately, but you will get it. Someone suggests a book or says something, or whatever, it'll come to you, or it'll be in the shower. And you're like, oh, that idea, or this connection. Oh, so it's really a practice of being in the question. Like even for us, as we're going through these kind of rearrangements, right? We're going to call them breakdowns, but they feel like it. It's okay. What is the gift in this? How can I be a contribution? The question that I've been asking lately is, what wants to be expressed through me now, right? Because there's a part of me that wants to go the business route. Let's sell these things, right? Because that's what's worked. But something else is looking probably to be expressed here, but it's a conversation of what does leadership and ego and soul and business and wealth and because we have these gifts that can be expressed in a multitude of arenas. It doesn't only have to be through business. It can be volunteering. It can be a corporate. It can be speaking. It can be motherhood. So for me, I had the same thing. I was determined. And my guides were so pissed. Is like, why do you only have to insist that money has to come to you through your business? Right. Because for me, it was, well, if it comes through that way, then I have proven to myself and the world that I made it, that I can make it, right? And so it was a value thing for me. But the truth is that money can come to us from an infinite myriad ways. I'm pet sitting a dog. I'm going to make $150 by just petting a fluffy dog here. Money came to me that way out of the blue. Like, money comes to me through all ways. And so once I expanded, right, and I took off the judgment of it, because judgment is always a lie. It's always heavy. And there's always conclusions, limitations, and expectations stuck in judgments. When you can return those to wherever they came from and expand the possibilities, what else is possible? And that's a great question. What else is possible here that I haven't even imagined? And so being the question, I think, can be a lot more powerful than going, well, how do I do this? Why isn't this working? Why never leads to an expansive answer? How only gets you in your head? What would it take? What would it be like to have my life be even better than I imagined? And stay in the energy of the question. And then it's a question of, are you willing to trust, give it space, and know you're being supported no matter what? Some days I'm better at that than others.
Yeah, I love that. Stay in the question. Just know that if you ask, which I'm a huge believer in and I speak about all the time, just ask for what you seek, be clear about it, and the answers will come. It's a really good reminder. Thank you. And you just shared that so beautifully. So I know you have a free gift to share. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so ladies, if you're interested in understanding what your soul level leadership gifts are, you can take my 10-minute free kind of guided meditation on to help you self-assess. What is your archetype? There are 5 archetypal families. There's the mystic, the visionary, the strategist, the explorer, and the divine feminine archetypes. We all have all of those, but we tend to have a dominant one and usually a subdominant one. And this informs what drives you to lead, what are your innate gifts of leadership, and what are your strengths and what are your challenges, and how do you apply these in your business? Your branding, your messaging, your offers. If you're a visionary, you're probably a disruptor. You're passionate, you're loud, you're a badass. You're going to do everything. You're totally going to stand out, not fit in, right? And a mystic is different. I'm a mystic. And so it's just about acknowledging how you are and then allowing that to express itself in who you're being and everything you do. And just remembering that what you have to offer is a contribution to the world, however you choose to express it at any given moment. So yeah.
Beautiful. I highly recommend that, and stay connected with Priscilla either on Facebook or through her emails. They're always enlightening and inspiring. And thank you, Priscilla. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you and all the work that you do and the way you continue to show up.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Big hugs, everyone. If I can help, just let me know.